Dick Aven is a songwriter in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood. So, hi, I'm Dick Aven, and I'm a singer-songwriter and a multi-instrumentalist. This is a concert ukulele. It's a new instrument for me. I've been playing ukulele for about a year. Switched from, well, not really switched, but added it to my arsenal of instruments. I'm a mostly a sax player as far as what I grew up playing, and improvisation took me to composition, and composition took me to songwriting and playing a lot of different instruments, and finally to putting together a studio and recording my own music with occasional help or not. I can get away with playing pretty much everything that I would use in the studio, or occasionally I have a guest appearance by my friend Tokyo, Mississippi, or Hugh Hamilton out of Philadelphia, or Paul Ekman occasionally on upright bass. I find that that you do get different types of songs out of starting with different instruments. I definitely write different on piano or guitar than I do on the ukulele, although it is nice to try writing on one instrument and then playing it on another. You can get some really nice parts that seem really obvious on one instrument, and then when you put them on another instrument, it can be really effective, but where you start definitely changes what you end up with. The first song I played is a song I wrote a few months ago called Your Love, and it's a song about remorse, about forgiveness, or it's just asking for forgiveness, and I wrote it from the angle of what I might want to say to somebody who I felt I hadn't treated well, or what I might want to hear from somebody who I felt had not treated me particularly well. The way that I played it downstairs is not the same way that I recorded it, but the version that I have on the record I just finished is a produced version. It's moderately produced. I played all the instruments on it, and it goes from the first part of the song with the lyrics and the melody into an ambient piece that is the mirror of the other half of the piece, so that it kind of leaves you with a feeling of loneliness at the end. The other song is a song that I wrote just a few days ago called Complete Mystery. It was one of the first songs that I've written entirely on the uke. I just did a version of it in my home studio where I'm playing all the instruments. I'm playing acoustic bass and congas and the cajon, which is that instrument that you beat on to get kind of a bass snare kind of sound. It's a natural instrument instead of using any kind of sequencers or anything like that. I don't think I used anything computer-wise on the take. Oh yes, I did. I used an organ, a MIDI organ, and one low string. And then I put bari sax and soprano sax and a background of several flutes, and it works really nicely. I started writing originally when I was in college, and I was playing a lot of sax and doubling with maybe a touch of keyboards, a little flute, and I would hire singers to come in or join bands where I was writing for the singers, and I just never could, like a lot of musicians I talk to who write, my real reason to start singing was because I couldn't find anybody to sing my songs the way that I wanted them sung. Once I picked up the guitar when I was about 25, it all kind of came together a lot more for me. And I try to keep growing as a jazz musician, playing saxophone, and I still do a lot of gigs on saxophone. But I try to keep my writing balanced with maybe somewhat complex compositional works, but also I have a real tendency to try to write really simple 3-chord songs with melodies that I think work for, you know, maybe a somewhat explainable reason, but more of a for some mysterious reason. That's partly what I was getting at with Complete Mystery, is that there's just this, I think that the really simple songs, when they work really well, they give an energy out that just says that something is beautiful or works really well for some almost unknown reason. I think a lot of people who get really far in music, they come from being super influenced by people, and while I am influenced by people, I think the difference that I've noticed is that a lot of my growth as a musician really came from being the guy that the band would point to play sax. Would just play a sax solo, because I'd sit there and listen to the song and you know, get it in my head what the chord progression basically is, and know that at some point in the next minute and a half I was going to be pointed at and expected to play a solo. So while I listened to a lot of different people, from, you know, jazz greats like Miles and Coltrane and Wayne Shorter, to of course the Beatles and you know, a lot of female vocalists like Kate Bush and Rickie Lee Jones, and I could go on forever with influences. I think my main influence is really just the hours I've put in playing music, and that I learned a lot from just doing. You can download individual tracks off of my website at IAC, and you can Google that, Dick Aven at IAC. IAC stands for Independent Artist Company, and I keep a page there because it seems to be really helpful for me to write a song, spend all night recording it, and then throw a version up and kind of see what the reaction is. And then as I listen to it, I start noticing that this or that might need to be tweaked a little bit, and then I tweak it and re-upload the song, and I get it to a certain level, and I see whether or not it's getting any energy from people. And it helps me to grow the songs instead of just sticking another one in a drawer and here's another song. So I do get a lot of plays. I've probably got a few thousand plays or so a month on IAC. I do have a new CD. I'm not sure when I'm going to finally release it. It's really close now. I think I just did the last of the tweaking mixes. It's called Everywhere Ever, because I tend to have a lot of diversity in what I do, from everything from blues to folk to a slight country bend. But I'm trying to put together a new Americana that, if I can think of a resource that you might consider American, I'm trying to incorporate it into what I do, so that, you know, now we've got the Hawaii, the ukulele, we've got blues and jazz and country and, you know, American pop. There's always a little redneck in there. Although this record is probably less redneck than any of my other records. When I was in college, I practiced saxophone probably 8 hours a day. And if I went a day without playing saxophone, or 2 days, or God forbid 3 days or a week or something, I would get increasingly more distraught. And it was like I wouldn't even really know why until I went back and started playing again. Now I find that, well, I went through a period of being sort of the same way when I was writing on guitar. I would write every day and sing every day, and if I didn't do it, I would get distraught. Now I find that as long as I do something in music pretty much every day, I'm okay. Otherwise, I get a little bit nutty, and then, but then I'm kind of nutty when I'm in the process of writing something too, because I get just kind of out there, and maybe I don't eat, and I don't do my exercising like I should. So I do try to occasionally take a whole day off if I can keep my hands off of an instrument, but it's pretty rare.